Hello, this is a video about the 2060 indicator. It is primarily set up for an axle weighing program. So the first thing that we're going to do and talk about here with this video is just the basics of it. So I'm going to go ahead and power the unit on by pushing the power button in the lower left hand corner. I have a remote display off on the left hand side. We'll go over that later after we get this thing to load and start up. Okay, so now we're ready for the application load. You will see on the display it says a startup and it has the date listed on there. So to begin with, let's look at some of the buttons to become familiar with. So if we take a look at, I'll zoom in here really quick. If you look, you have the function buttons here, F1 through F5. And then on the display, you'll see that it has the gross pounds here, the listed weight. And sometimes when you start up a scale, it's not out of the norm to have a little bit of weight on there. So the 0 button's located here. We'll touch on that in a little bit. But the F1 function primarily deals with a process called the in and out feature. The in and out feature works as in if you weigh one time through and you have a series of, let's say, 3 axles, you can weigh empty or you can weigh loaded the first time through, and whatever that instance is. So if I weigh the first time through loaded, let's say, it's going to take and add up each of my axle weights, and then if I come back through empty, it will subtract my empty weight from the loaded weight, which will give me my net weight, basically what I was hauling. So that translates over to a gross, which is the complete weight, the entirety, the net weight of what I'm hauling, and then the tare weight, the empty weight of the truck without the product. So a gross, a tare, and a net. So that is the in-out feature. Now if we look at, there's a green button, and the green button pertains to the alarm light. We'll touch on that a little bit later, but you can change the initial startup from red light to green light if you want it to start up with a green light to begin the process. Then it's defaulted at that, and in the normal sense of a green light, traffic light, and then the red light for if you need to stop. So I'll explain that process a little bit later. We'll go more in depth. So in, out, green, which pertains to the light, and then we have the report. If you touch on the report will just show you basically what you currently did for a transaction. So the reporting, most likely you won't use that portion of it necessarily right away. Typically you're going to use probably the print function, and then there's the remote display option there too that I mentioned. But we'll go a little bit further into this later, but just trying to get a general idea of how to begin. And then the red light here, and this is just switching, toggling back and forth between green light to begin, or if I want red light to begin, that whole thing. And then moving over to F5 here. F5 is probably where the vast majority of people are going to want to go through and have this all set up. So that's called a fleet mode. So fleet mode, you think of if I have a series of a couple trucks, 3 trucks, let's say, that is what that feature is going to entail. So the fleet mode allows you to put in an empty weight, that thing that we were talking about earlier as far as the tare weight. It allows you to use that, and then it's going to take and add up all of your axles. So if we have a series of 3 weights, it's going to go 1, 2, 3, and then it's going to add all those up, and then it will give you a gross weight, and then it will subtract the tare weight, the empty weight, from the gross weight, and then you get the net weight, which again, gross weight is fully loaded, tare weight is what the truck would weigh naturally without any product, And then the net weight is basically your haul, so your commodity. So these are the main features that you'll see. When you go into any programming, you're going to use this panel here, and then you hold down the home button. We'll touch on that in the next video, but this is just the basics to give you a good idea of where to begin.